those employees, of course, they're our best resources. They're the ones who work every day and actually help me present budgets and just keeps the everyday work going on. So I have to give a shout out to them, but they are our best assets. They are our best resources. I appreciate them every day. There. Salary and benefits will continue to be the focus this evening, so I won't harp on it on every single part of the presentation that I do make. I just want to talk to you a little bit, and there's a slide on it, and I know you know this, but I want to bring it out. There's a revenue side and there's an expenditure side. We'll talk about that as we go through the slides. You all realize it, you all know it, but I'd like to highlight it if I can. Next slide, please, John. I want to talk a little about the infrastructure and the profile of the town, because it has significance in all the budgets, to include the Board of Education budget. I'm not speaking for them, but I think that we're in parallel when we speak. We are the third largest town in Connecticut, about 58 square miles. We have total roads, 115, almost 116 miles. 94 of them or 94 and a half are paved. 21, almost 21 and a half are unimproved. Public Works, and the reason I bring this up is it's a strain on a couple of things. Public Works has a lot of area to cover, especially when they are, as we have in the last couple of weeks, plowing, when they're paving, crack sealing, all the general maintenance that goes on with Public Works has a distance to deal with. If you're going back to the garage, you have to pick up material. You're going across town. As much as Public Works tries to be efficient in everything they do, just the fact that we are a large area has a lot to do with the infrastructure, and that bears costs. We have rural streets that in the borough that are unique to smaller vehicles that need to be maintained in tight quarters, drainage issues that all have an effect on our budget. Next one, please, John. The town is strategically, has strategically located our emergency services, whether it was by error or it was a great plan prior to any of us being here. We have two fire departments that are volunteer, one on the west side over on 190, right by West Stafford School, and Colburn Road, Stafford Fire Department number 1. We also share a combined building over at Willington Avenue where the ambulance sits, and we have a piece of apparatus over there. So we're pretty well covered distance-wise, even though the town is very, very large. But once again, it comes with its trials and tribulations. We in this budget, and I won't hit this, I've got a slide on this. We have an ambulance service that is paid to people 24/7 all year. The cost of the taxpayer, as we estimate, is about $365,000. That's the revenues minus the expenses. This is what the town actually is appropriating to keep the service running.
Stand by, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to just keep going because I know the slide. The two fire departments total about $72,000. West Stafford has a budget of about, it has a budget of $254, which is an increase of about $10,000, and Stafford Fire Department $217,277. They're up $33,277. However, they're up because my indication of the information that I got from the fire department is that they had not budgeted correctly for many years, and were taking funds out of their own pockets to do fundraising, to do things like gas, oil, et cetera, insurance, whatever it happened to be. So they're in a perfect world, and the best description is that they're attempting to catch up. The fire services budget have state mandates, just like almost every other budget we have in every other town. In every town is the mandates. That mandate is compliance with OSHA, NFPA. We have regulation, or they have regulations and mandates that they must comply to. I just threw this in after talking to Superintendent Sugarman, is that the larger geographic area also has a cost on transportation of the buses. In many small towns, you could use less buses and make more runs, where here, because it's a large area, it has an impact there also. Next slide, please. I talked before about the revenues. I'll go briefly because you could probably educate me on this. The fact of the matter is we have revenues, we have expenses. When we talk on the slides, I'll try to point out from time to time what departments actually bring in some revenue. However, I want to be absolutely clear. We have state revenues that we get from the state, obviously. However, we haven't yet gotten the final figures. That's why this budget will always be a work in progress until we get the state state funding that we get. ACS Grant Board of Education helps offset the school expenditures. The town gets things payment in lieu of taxes. Those funds are received from land that the state owns. The Woodland Springs 1 and 2, we get pilot funding for that, and there's a variety of ways that money is figured. Next one, John, please. The town, as I said, brings in revenues, although that's not their main goal. The town departments, such as the permits and inspection office, brings in fire marshal permit fees and building inspector fees, of course. The town clerk has land records, filings, and licenses. The first selectman office, although very minimal, does get staff pavilion rentals, raffle bingo permits, and notary services. Transfer station, pay as you go, throw, trash disposal, recycling fees. Family services have a client-based counseling reimbursed through insurance, Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement. I want to make it clear, and Judy's in the audience today, excuse me, but it's very much just like we talked about the ambulance. Medicare, Medicaid reimbursement is not a given, and it is not always, as it isn't always the total that you expect. Next one, please, John. One more. We have a total general government budget that I'd like to present.
The third one, though.
Next one, please.
Oop,
Total government, there it is. So the total government budget on the selectmen side has an increase of 3.43%, $436,038. Our debt service for this year is $3,042,361. It's actually a decrease of $404,675, or 11.74%. We're moving in the right direction. It's not perfect, but we're getting there. It's important to note that helps bring down, of course, our expense on our expense side. The library, and I just want to explain, as you all know, the library is really a budget that's underneath the Board of Finance, not under the Board of Selectmen. However, they work very cooperatively and with my office. I do make recommendations. They do submit a budget to us. They are up 4.64%. I believe they made a presentation to you. So the total Board of Selectmen budget increase is $58,592.42. Or an increase of 0.35%. I want you to understand that the department heads work daily to try to get these figures to where they are. While they may not be perfect, we think we're moving in the right direction. I don't know for how long we can continue to keep the budgets as low as they are, but we're working on. Under the debt service, it includes the repaid bond debt for the WPCA. Covers costs associated with SES, construction, and high school renovations. So I want to make it the point that whenever we make a decision at the town level, it has consequences many years down the road. I'm preaching to the choirs, I realize that. But we always have to think of how we pay our infrastructure back once we make the commitment to bond. Next, John. You had these in your packages. I'm not going to go line by line on these. Because we will do it, I will do it on an individual slide for each department. Next slide, John. I wanted to point out, and there were some increases, but significantly I wanted to point out that under buildings, that went up 23.26%, or $154,610. I'll explain on the slide coming up on why that is like that. Under safety and protection, we're up 27.10%, or $51,000. Next slide, John. And the only other one I wanted to bring up was holidays. Holidays. Right there, John, thanks. 17.73%. I'm gonna move, as I said, this is in your packet, so I won't bore you with every line item, because I will break it down by department. If you could, John, go to the Board of Selectmen, slide, which is the next one. Next one. Thanks. So the Board of Selectmen has a request for this fiscal year of $230,298. That's actually an increase of $5,868. Part of what, and you'll see this throughout the entire presentation, that we're struggling with is an increase in insurance costs. We have it at 15%, as I have worked with our HR, and that's a suggestion that has come into my office and through our insurance carriers. If it stays at 15%, that's where we have a budget. If it goes higher, of course, we're over budget. If it goes under, we can make that adjustment. We're still waiting to hear on the final numbers. So an increase of $5,868 for that Board of Selectmen. Next slide, please. Under the grants and community development, we have a request of $123,984, or an increase of $4,407. Part of the increase is the benefit cost in funding the Connecticut Main Street at the request of the Economic Development Commission. I'm going to use Lynn as an example, and she was a good example to me. When I first got in here a couple of years ago, Lynn said, "Well, you don't necessarily have a spending problem. What you have is a revenue problem." What we're trying to do is to encourage the EDC to contact businesses so that we can get some of the business in here and bring up our revenues. So it isn't always on the backs of the home.
Bill, you gotta speak up. Your speaker went away.
Come on up front, be next to me. So this is Amber's. Amber, she's our grant writer. She does a great job at getting us grants. Just this afternoon, I was notified that through CROG, we have at least the ability to get a $200,000 grant for part of the cost for the cleanup of Wood School. That's another day, but Amber doesn't go a day without applying for a grant somewhere, somehow. So I appreciate what she does, and our increase is $4,407. Probate court, this is a cost that is sent to us for central probate court. It is a cost that we can't negotiate, but it's a mandate to us to have that. And the increase is $500. Thanks. Thanks. Maybe thanks.
I think we're a couple behind John.
That's not gonna work. I'll just speak up. It is good. Our IT, this probably isn't a good time to discuss IT, at least in increase. But I will. IT technology is a request for $246,833, or an increase of $21,504. We have been asked, and this is one of those mandates that I've talked to you about before, to go from .org in town to .gov. There may be a cost for that. We initially thought it was $3,000. However, I've asked Amber and Eric to apply for a grant. However, we haven't got the grant yet, so the cost is in there. There's also a rather large cost to upgrade the resident trooper office, town hall, and community center with new phones. The phones, correct me if I'm wrong, are 10 years old, and it comes at a cost of about $17,500. That is some of the increase in those costs. Next, John, please, under the registers. We have an increase of $26,189. I'm going to explain something to you that I think we finally solved. Because of early voting, because of things that registers are responsible to do, we were giving a stipend to the registers, but then they would put in for hourly cost at a particular rate. We didn't, and this is not disrespectful because I trust our registers to the hill, but there was no control over that. You could put in for 10 hours a day, you could put in for 5 hours a day, you might go to a conference and you might not. So there was not a lot of control over that. Once again, don't misunderstand it. I trust them, we just needed to clean this up. So what we did is we made stipends. So the stipend includes now work that they perform for early voting, all of their duties, for both the registers and the deputies. it cleaned it up, and now, as a budget item, we now know what the cost of the registers were. We might have a registrar's budget of 16,000, but if they went over that and they were working, you had to pay them. So we would not know what the budget for. Now we know what the budget is, and I appreciate the work. All 4 registers came up and worked this out with us. So I appreciate them doing that. We cleaned it up a lot. Next one, John, human resources, not a lot here, increase in salary and benefits. You'll hear that time and time again. The increase is $6,989. Under the Board of Finance, we have an increase of $1,000 for our audit fees and the cost of the Board of Finance recording secretary. Not more money, just more time. They've been using the recording secretary more than what they have in the past. Not a bad thing, but certainly should be paid. Especially when now that we don't have a finance director whose responsibility would be to do those minutes. We now have someone else doing those, and that would be, of course, Aaron. Under the assessors, an increase of $10,344, an increase in software services costs that maintain property information. I have that under $1,600. The rest is salaries and benefits and FICA. Board of Assessment Appeals. The Board of Assessment Appeals, and I think they're going to be busy this year, or they have been busy, or they will be busy, has a stipend for 3 individuals at the board that has where you can go in and you can appeal your assessment. The total cost is $6,985, and that's split by 3 people receiving $2,000 less. As many of you know, I've been working with both selectmen in a RPIP grant to see if we can't share services between Wellington, Towland, and Stafford, where we could for 3 years get a reduction on our salaries that we pay. The town would be the employer of that, of a 75, 50 to 25 declining cost share for that. So I'm looking for ways with both Tim and Tony to try to bring those costs down and of course share the resources with the other towns. Under police protection, the budget is $912,573, an increase of $56,980. Some salary and benefits. Police equipment for outdated MDT computers. They're not matching with the state of Connecticut. We do have to get get those computers updated, or they have been, and we need to pay for it. Also, we have a contract for tasers. As many of you know, tasers, instead of the police using a gun, they're using a taser. We have we're on 2 years of a 5-year lease on that. I want to make it very, very transparent. There has been a request from the police for 2 things, large items. One was a police cruiser replacement, and the other one was for a sergeant from the state police, just very much like Sergeant Cormier, to help add shifts. I would say night versus day. Those are not in the budget at this time. We didn't feel that it was appropriate to put that in there. However, I will yield to the Board of Finance for suggestion on that. Next, under emergency services, I've already spoke about that. I will tell you that the emergency services, like the ACO, however, probably times 10, has been the busiest it has ever been. I want to say that a department I belong to, but it's just like Stafford One, is we're running 1,700 calls a year. That's 4.5 calls per day. If they come in at night, our volunteers are getting up and running out 2 or 3 times, go to work and do the same thing the following night. During the day, if they come in, people either have to leave work or hopefully they're around. A shout out to emergency services for doing that. There is an increase of $43,475, of which some of that is the $365 for the ambulance. Once again, the ambulance bills Medicare, Medicaid, private. However, the return on that billing is not necessarily realized. In some cases, just called bad debt. We have some, we do chase it, or they do chase it, but they're not always able to catch it. I am here to say that I think we've been updating the Board of Finance. It was monthly, we're now going to go to quarterly on their billings. Handsome guy in that left slide there. Moving on, permits and inspections. There's a increase of 64,992, of 593,477 request. Anticipated revenue from zoning and building and fire marshal fees, we have 420. I'm going to suggest that that's probably close, although it may be a little overrated, over exaggerated. I'll take a second look at that. But we do get revenues from permits, as I said before, from all three of those departments. As you know, we consolidated within the permits and inspections department, fire marshal, deputy fire marshal, building inspector, and as you know, our fire marshal is a building inspector and a fire marshal, and Andy, who is our zoning officer, all out of one department, all under the auspices of this budget. Our zoning officer has been shared services with the town of Union. He goes up there for and receives $6,000 per year for that service. We also have a shared service with the town of Wyndham, where we receive $138,507 and by way of income to the town under the revenue section. Probably next to Public Works, or as close to Public Works in the town clerk and assessor's office. It's a very busy department. Moving on to transfer station operations, we're requesting $669,513, an increase of $53,311. Some increase in salaries and benefits, increase in equipment repair for all the transfer station equipment, increase in disposal costs for trash and recycling, and the funding for regulatory upgrades and repair of the facility and the scale. Once again, the Public Works Department had asked for funding to repair the scale. However, I've asked them once again, with the permission of the other two selectmen, to find that within their budget. So the scale would, and will be upgraded. But I'm asking the Public Works Director to find that within his budget, even if he has to take a cut and pay. Moving on, highways. We have a request of $3,421,582, an increase of $67,784. The increase in salaries and benefits cost to highway workers. The DPW director has actually been hired at a lesser amount than what our last DPW director left at. I mean, for obvious reasons, Devin was here, worked 7 or 8 years, and there was a cost to that. I'm not grading him leaving it at all. I'm just suggesting that John was hired at a lesser rate and that brings down that particular cost. We're maintaining, at the request again of the Board of Selectmen, the $1 million of paving. We did not increase that percentage-wise. However, we all are going to realize that the cost for paving is going to go up. However, we've elected to keep it at $1 million, and we're going to try to continue to get grants and work to keep within that budget. As John has reported at the Selectmen's meeting before, we're ready to start on Hampton Road. Everything's in place. We think we can do it for under the $1 million, and for that reason, I didn't elect to increase it at this time. I'm looking to get some more savings with maybe some adjustments in that department, and I will report back to the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen when we can realize some more savings there. Under the Recreation Commission, we have a request for $174,671, an increase of $13,739. This request, the Rec Department continually requests a full-time Rec Director to oversee rec sports and establish programs for Stafford residents. This is not currently included in the budget. The cost that they estimate for a Rec Director would be $95,000. There's a possibility of perhaps a $20,000 stipend. However, I'd like to work with the board this year and to come up with some creative ways of perhaps getting a Rec Director, whether it be part-time or full-time, And I'd like to continue to work with the board on some ideas that I have to make that happen. ARPA no longer funds this, and it was funded in the past with some ARPA funding. I think we used the phrase often of fiscal cliff. This may have been one of those areas where we see that. However, fortunately, minimally at the best. We do some fundraising. Amber and Diana work hard to get fundraising going for such things as the polar plunge and donations to help fund summer rec. Next slide, please. Under parks, a request of $654,472 or $20,497. And by the way, I gave a shout out to Public Works. Within that Public Works is the Parks Department that also has snow work assignments over these last couple months. So shout out to them. This includes a purchase price of equipment to start lining, striping our fields within our purview. That's some of the school parks, some of our own parks. We're thinking of purchasing a device that will paint the fields, line stripe them, and automation so that you won't have to have a person out there doing that. I'll let John speak more on that when we have a minute. Under holidays, we had a request of $42,500, an increase of $6,400. This budget shows an increase in the cost of the annual Summerfest fireworks display, which will be recognized in the 250th anniversary. Stafford Savings Bank has generously continues to reimburse the town every year for the cost of the fireworks and has approved this increase. Stafford Savings Bank would like to have a more robust fireworks show for the 250th and have donated $25,000 to this event. Once again, shout out to the bank and also to Amber for setting that up. Under the EDC, Economic Development, we've elected to fund them $1,000 in hopes that this $1,000 will reap a reward 10 times over. One of the EDC's jobs is to attempt to bring in business to the town, which is, as I said, is badly needed. Under the Conservation Commission, there's a $2,000 request. There's no increase in this line item. Under the Arts Commission, the request is for $3,000. Once again, we've elected not to increase that. Under the Health District, Stafford belongs to the North Central Health District, which we have a seat at the table on, and there was an increase this year of $3,608. We do have a local sanitation, which is also housed in the Office of Permits and Inspections. I want to speak just a minute on our debt service. Debt service is comprised of payments and interest on borrowed debt paid over a period of years. And there's a spelling error there if anybody's looking. All of these projects were approved by taxpayers at town meetings. Projects such as the installation of the solar and geothermal, the upgrade of the water pollution control facility, infrastructure upgrades, including the dams and bridges, the elementary school and high school renovations. That service is included in the overall Board of Selectmen's budget, which is approximately $3 million per year. Of the $3 million, the town receives a reimbursement of approximately $80,000 from the WPCA for an offset of the approved sewer infrastructure grades. The town does not receive any other monies for this debt. So our debt service has decreased for $404,675.58. So as I said before, I think we're going in the right direction. This helps to bring down the overall cost of the selectmen's budget in this presentation. And I think I'll work with Lynn and Beth to continue to see how our bond debt is going and what we might want to do to see if we can even bring that debt down further. A work yet to come. The community center has a decrease of $855. We did not fill a part-time position. That was here. We've just asked another person to pick up the duties, and that has been working well. So I say. Stafford Family Services has a request of $519,657. It's an increase of $9,082. Increases in salary and benefits. Family Service provides counseling for services of youth and adults. Anticipated revenue for billing clients is $200,000. This actually offsets some of the costs of the taxpayers. Once again, this is a tough nut to try to lock down on because once again, Medicare and Medicaid is a part of the reimbursement and insurances, and you never know what you get when you do bill. On the transfer out, I just want to explain this, and I know most of you know or all of you know it. Transfer, these are line items that are in the town budgets for each year that are cumulative over the fiscal year and is transferred to special funds. So the town has the money necessary when the expense is realized. One of the most important things, and I think we felt it this year, is that the town always saves money annually for such things as the reevaluation. It comes every 5 years. Next 5 years, we'll be doing another one. So if we save incrementally, we won't get hit with that large bill at one time. It's just a smart way of doing business. Special revenue costs associated with payout of accrued time when employee terminates. So there's a percentage that the town should keep, and we're in, according to the auditor, in very good shape on that. But if someone were to leave town service, we just had our finance director leave, there's a payout that goes with that, whether it's insurance, whether it's sick leave, their PTO. This is where that line item is used. There is a certain amount you should keep, and we're within a good limit on that. We have a capital improvement program, one for buildings and one for projects. The CIP was recommended by the town auditors. I can only speak for the last 3 years, but we've been putting money into the CIP, so we'll have that cash balance in there when we need to either do a building, and you won't, hopefully, I'm not big about taking out any more bonds. There's a long discussion, and there's some different ways of looking at it, but I think if we get a CPI and establish a CPI program, it will be beneficial fiscally to the town. Under a contingency fund, this is a new item, and it will be reserving or setting signs of reserve funds for unexpected expenditures such as emergencies or unforeseen risks, ensuring financial stability and readiness for situations like disasters, acting as a crucial risk management tool to cover the unplanned cost of, so it doesn't disrupt our budgets. It was suggested that we have a contingency fund. It helps so that we're not hitting our unassigned or assigned balance, our fund balance. This is, and I'm just going to use an example. I was involved in it many years ago. At the Witt School, there was an oil tank that when it was raining came up, oil went all over the place. There was no way to pay for that. They did the general fund. This is where I think the contingency fund might have come handy there, so you don't hit your balance. Coming to the close here, the capital projects lease. There's a decrease of $213,976. The decrease is a result of the lease payment for previously purchased fire apparatus that was paid off in November. Once again, a decrease at this particular budget and in the foreseeable future, and I just can only speak while I'm here, is that I don't see the need to replace any large item by way of emergency services at this time, with the exception of an ambulance, to which we have started to budget, or we have a line item within the ambulance budget to do that. And the next slide, it just shows the revenue that we get from the state of Connecticut. As you know, we spend staff spends a lot of time working with the legislators. I think it's important that we continue to fight for the money that should be coming to the town. I wanted to point out one item, which is the Pequot Mohegan money. There are towns that do not receive that whatsoever. The town of Stafford does receive it. I'm going to continue to fight to make sure that stays in our budget, but there is an elimination by many towns. Once again, I'm sorry that seems to be a little lengthy. I only want to point out one more thing, and that is 0.35% increase in the overall budget, with an increase request of $58,592.
Board of Finance, any question for First Selectman Morrison, or you can pass them off to department heads if
Yeah.
need be?
Could the debt services, did we pay a bond off? I mean, how we pay $400,000 less?
Lynn might be able to do it. I'll start and I'll let Lynn pick it up or.
Did you refinance? What did you do?
It's the cost that de-escalates, but I'll let Lynn.
Yes, it's likely that, I haven't looked at the details of that recently, but nothing was refinanced. It's just likely that something was paid off last year. or this year.
Would that fire truck be part of that?
No, that's in
Lease purchase.
the lease, yeah.
There should be a declining,
So bond, we paid a bond off, we don't really know.
I think it was one of the school projects. It was one of the school
Got
projects.
so many changes, nobody can figure it out.
I can get a debt service schedule for you.
That'd be great. Get Brad at the next meeting. That way it'll answer that question.
Another thing you sent to us, which I thought was really great, was the list of associates or town positions with salary base that you had.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
There was a list of all the positions in town and the pay. Can I get that for the last 3 years?
Yeah, I think you have it in your packet for this year.
Well, you showed this, you showed it this year, but I'd like to
Sure.
see, going back 2 years, what did it look like, and
Sure. Yeah, we can do
that's
that.
all. And do we have a contract with Wyndham? Or is that a month to month?
No, that's an annual contract. I'll let Diana speak to that.
Yes, it's a sale of service agreement, so we sell services to the town of Wyndham in the way of building official services, and then we receive a monthly reimbursement from them. payment from them.
My only concern would be is if that went away, do we let go of somebody that, because it's,
In other words, does it go for a period of time, Diana? Is it like for a year or?
There is a termination clause so that we can exit that agreement at any time, and so can the town of Wyndham. So
so,
yes, we
So it
we
really
make a
doesn't-
projection based on the fact that their services that we're providing them are going to continue to be needed for an extended period.
However, and I should have mentioned this, and I didn't give them due credit. It's 10 hours a week per person. So Glenn does 10 weeks, and then the fire marshal, who is a building inspector, goes down for 10 weeks, so we always have coverage here. Something I didn't mention, and I wanted to mention it because I'm not asking him to do it. However, there's about 4 department heads, which I'm not criticizing the other ones, who don't have to work on Fridays, don't have to work on Saturdays, and do not have to work on Sundays, but do. So there's no loss to the town. Within the permit inspection, Glenn and the fire marshal both pick up Fridays and Saturdays as needed. Sometimes, Glenn, can I say Sundays?
You can say that.
So I'm looking at time that's coming in. If there's a labor attorney in here, I'm probably in trouble, but you're looking at 100 hours, 105 hours, and that's not their scheduled.
So we're providing 20 hours a week to them and getting 138,000.
That answer your question?
I got a
That's
hundred
it.
questions. man.
my concern would be if that dried up.
If it stops, then maybe it'll take us Saturday,
I'm
Sunday.
gonna speak.
I don't anticipate it ending anytime
I
soon.
have a schedule.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have one thing to piggyback on that. Is the 138 and the 6,000 for the zoning officer to union, is that part of the 420 in anticipated revenue?
I don't believe so.
Well, that 420 was just building fees. Legal fees.
Wasn't the anticipated revenue. You're asking that on our slide?
Yeah,
That's in addition to the building permit fees and zoning fees that we anticipate.
so could that be added to the 420?
In effect, yes.
Okay, thank you.
The only reason we didn't do that is because it could be that cliff. I think Lynn and I talked many times about the highs and lows that we see within budgets. I'm trying not to do that. Certainly there's revenue that we can experience at the end of next year.
Yeah, building permit revenue is pretty volatile and depends on the economy in a large part. So if the economy's good, people want to build more. If it slows down, then they dry up.
That is-
Hold on, Dave.
Hold on.
Because you got a long list, I want you to last. Anybody else on the Board of Finance have any questions?
Who owns the Glenville Dam?
We do.
Town does?
John, you're back there, behind the curtain, the wizard. The paving cost, we've maintained at $1 million, which is good. We didn't have that before. But what's the actual, I can't imagine we get as many miles or as many feet for $1 million as we did 2 years ago or last year. Do you know how much that's gone up?
I don't have a specific figure for you because it's really dependent on how much work you do to the road. If you're replacing drainage and redoing the subbase, full depth reclamation, it can vary. So for an example, this year, we're doing a mill and overlay on Hamden Road. That cost is approximately $730,000. It's in line to what we did to Old Springfield Road last year. But if I were to do full depth reclamation for the entirety of it, we're probably looking closer to $3 million.
So how does it compare to the Old Springfield job per foot or per mile or whatever?
This year, it's about the same for what we're doing.
Okay,
But if you're talking, depending on how you're reconditioning a road, that's where we're at.
yeah. And can you take out that big rock
Stop hitting it. Stay on the road.
that my wife hit and blew out her tire? We want to know?
Just keep the car between the lines.
It's noted, sir.
And rec director, you talked about, Bill. I mean, I think that, at least what I've heard from people, I think finding a way to get a rec director in there, whether it be like just adding that duty onto somebody with a stipend or whatever, at least starting it off, I think would be a really good start. I know nothing about how those different things work, but it seems like we also have cost of running the rec department in the summer, right? Is it possible if we had a part-time rec director, it would actually encompass one of those jobs for the director or the assistant director or whatever, where we'd have somebody working, on a part-time basis, even year-round, which could possibly bring revenue to the town.
Certainly something to look into, to go.
That's all I got for me. Dave, you ready?
Yes, I've got quite a few questions I want to ask. I want to begin by saying that I think you and the other members of the Board of Selectmen are doing a really good job administering the town. Most people recognize how hard you work, you make good decisions, you're always available, you're transparent, so that's good. But I have a real problem with the whole approach that we're taking. And I want to ask you about it in general, and I want to look at specific lines that bother me. It doesn't matter whether you read top-level liberal or conservative material on public policy today. They all say the same thing. More money should go to the local communities. Everything is community, home, localism, okay? Everybody wants it, okay? If you look at what we're doing here, there's a tomorrow, and it's going to come. And there'll be prices to pay that we don't have to, that we don't immediately see now. The roads won't repair themselves, we know that. The buildings won't stay up without repair, they'll fall down, etc. Some of these amounts of increase are very small. Some there's no increase at all, like the roads, for example. Is this the way to go? Should it be the assumption of everybody in town that as soon as you get elected to run the town, you decide you're not going to spend any money on anything? There's no problems. There's nothing that has to come, you have to worry about in the future. My road is terrible. I mean, there's very few cities, towns in Connecticut that would allow, we have a lot of houses on that road, that many people to go up that road. You tried to fix it over and over again, but it's just all washed out. There's no road there anymore. It's just a bunch of patches. If we stay with the same amount for roads, okay? Now, everybody knows inflation has been a problem, although it's coming down now. But for building trades, supplies, things like that, the increases have been tremendous. So my question is this, does it make sense to stay with the same amount of money you did 1 year ago, 2 years ago, simply to be able to pacify some people who don't want to accept the fact that there's going to be a tomorrow? We don't want to live in a slum, and certain things you have to invest in. I've always believed in changing your oil. I've always believed in buying insurance, all the rest of it. I'm just wondering, you've done a great job with what you have, but is it time to look at some of these things and say, hey, it's not enough. We've got to increase. We can't even stay, we're not even at a steady state, you know?
I mean, I guess that's probably a discussion for a taxpayer. I talked to the board, both Tony and Tim, and we think that we think that we have enough money in there to at least sustain us and make improvements, as I used an example of the building department, who's going to be maintaining some things. I think the $1 million in the road program is something that will realize at least a road a year. To your point, Dave, I'd love to have a budget much larger, but I am the one who answers the phone from the taxpayers who say, I don't have a whole lot of money to pay. We're in a reevaluation this year, so I think that there's going to be some consideration having to be given to the tax burden this year. But I don't disagree with your point. It's just, where does it come from? I'd like to say that we hit the grants a little harder and we hit state funding a little harder. I'd like to make it up that way as opposed to from the taxpayers' point.
Okay, just a couple of specific things. I was commissioner, a chairman of the Recreation Commission for 21 years, okay? And during the time that I was there, we were very fortunate to have, for example, Mark Dunn to be one of the summer employees, you know, for the rec department. And he arranged to get us water safety instructors and certified lifeguards and everything that nobody else could get for free, because he knew the system, he knew who was graduating and so forth. We ultimately hired somebody who could train our own people here, and we saved a lot of money. I ran the whole basketball program myself for, I think, about 18 years. All those things could have been done by a recreation, should have been done by a recreation director. There's money to be made in doing that. There's also tremendous opportunities for people to get into things that they would really enjoy, to make their life worthwhile. I know that there's been real bitterness on the Recreation Commission side, and they've been passed over year after year. I'd like to echo what Steve said. I mean, that's something that we could possibly almost make self-sustaining, in that there are, you know, you can run programs, you can run tournaments, you can charge other towns to come in and play games here and so forth. You can make money doing those things. And so I really think something like that has to be looked at again. I know it's not you're reacting to the public dialogue and all the rest of it, but I lived through this once before when two selectmen decided they would never raise taxes, and for 10 years, they took every dollar that they could possibly squeeze out of the road fund to pay off things that they didn't fund properly. And you know what we ended up with? $19 million worth of repairs was the last estimate. That's no good. That's no way to go on. So I would honestly suggest that the department heads, you know, within reason, nobody's going to come out and give you everything you want, but within reason, look at small ways they can make progress, we can move forward, and also at least we can hold the line vis-a-vis inflation, okay?
And I'd like to just capitalize on, I agree with Steve, I agree with what you're saying with regard to the rec department. I say it a little bit differently, is can we do something internally to start, at least even if we start as a part-time, without a huge cost to the taxpayer, and then build off of that. So I echo your sentiments, I agree with Steve, but I think we need to look a little bit outside the box, but maybe use some internal structures that we have to make a rec director, or at least part-time. Working on that. I'd like to continue to work with the board on that. We've discussed it.
Any further questions or comments from the Board of Finance?
Thank you.
Next is public comment. If you'd like to make comment, it is not a question and answer period. We will be happy to get you answers at a later time. Please state your name and address, come up to the microphone, and please limit your comment to 3 minutes. Is there anybody who would like to make comments?
Derek Dimmick, Munson Road. Dave, you think everybody has a pot of gold, the residents have a pot of gold in their basement for everything that needs to be done? The roads, I mean, the roads aren't that bad. Some are very bad.
Not bad,
But
5 mile.
the better you make them, the faster they're gonna be, and then people are gonna complain that the traffic is going too fast on these roads. You say employees in town are underpaid. these employees in town, municipality work, I was in municipality work for 35 years. It was never a get-rich-quick position. You worked for your town, you enjoyed working for your town. A lot of these positions now are getting above what the private sector pays. Say, for instance, public works, you can't look at their hourly pay, you gotta look at their yearly pay with all the overtime they get. You can keep giving them money, giving money, but where's it gonna come from? You have to work within a budget. You just can't spend. And for Bill, the building department and the fire marshal, they're in Wyndham half the time. So why do we have a full-time department? Is there that many inspections where we can go to a part-time fire marshal and building inspector? Now, in the spring, you said, the fire marshal was saying that he was behind on so many inspections that he could never catch up, but yet he's in Wyndham 20 hours a week. How does that go with what he said?
It's public comment, did you want
Yeah.
to?
Can't answer these.
You can give
You
answers.
can come to my office,
Or then we'll get to come to your office and
I'll
it doesn't
come
get
in.
answered for the people.
I'll answer him.
we're just under public comment.
So it's public comment. This is the budget. You just did your budget and we're talking about departments.
And like I said, this is public comment time.
Mhm.
We happy to, and I know you know Bill's phone number, or he can
I'll
get a
let
hold of
right
you
after- right
and
after-
discuss, they'll get you the
Okay.
answers to these questions.
I'd be more than happy to meet with you anytime you want, any place you want.
Okay,
Is that it?
that's it.
Thank you.
Henry Brooks, Two River Road. If you want to guess from a budget for me, I think I want those extra police officers that are not filled in this town to be filled, those spots that we have vacant. And I want more police hours for law enforcement in the town of Stafford. Because I see Troop C out here all the time. Troop C's response time to do Stafford is not their job. Their job is to pick up extra help when needed, not fulfill our Stafford Police Department. Kyle does a good job. Today we had a car accident. We have our Stafford Police, we have state police, and we have an extra state police officer out here. So that shows that we need police in Stafford. And a human resource officer needs to post those jobs and fill them. Because police are necessary. We're a democratic town and we're speaking on the police accountability law. The Democrats made that law and they don't want to fulfill our police department. Our police department's necessary. Our animal control officer is another great person. She does great. It's sad to see all those dogs up there and for them to be there for a long time. And they're there for a long time too, because I just found out the other day that if a dog is released from the town of Stafford and bought or donation is made, that dog bites somebody after the town gives it to them. The town of Ashford was sued on a dog bite, and the town really has to work with those dogs to make sure that they're safe before they give them. I don't think the town should be responsible for a dog bite, but that's another story for another day. But they are. But I really want our police department full. We used to have police there all the time. We have some great Stafford police officers, and I think we can get more. And we don't have a shortage in police. We have a shortage in the people that don't want to hire or the regulations in the police. Because if we make it easier for them to do their jobs, we'll have them. But I don't think Stafford should be short law enforcement. I see too many. I'm out all the time. I see state police out here night and day. When our Stafford police aren't here, when we could have our own people doing our own area. You say we're the third biggest town. We need law enforcement. Troop C, coming from Troop C in Tolland, on Tolland Stage Road. They gotta go all the way to where our end of Stafford is, near the lake. They could be shot and dead before they get to them. At least we have Stafford there to contain it with Troop C backup. That's what Troop C was meant for backup, not a permanent structure to the town of Stafford. And I see them out here all the time. And they're flying down 32, all weather conditions. They have families at home too. We're putting their life at risk because we're selfish. They don't want to give them a budget to fulfill those spots. So if you want to vote yes on the budget, fill my Stafford Police Department full where it used to be.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Someone's coming here.
Sage McPherson, 44 Talon Ave. Do we have any kind of game plan to tackle the grand list on some of these businesses that owe like a lot of money? I know you're talking about more money, we could add more and, get more funds for the roads and things like that, but I feel like the way we talk about how we need more funding, we're putting more of the burden on families that already feel like the tax rate's too high. When we do have businesses in town that we can easily look up and just see that, maybe like come to an agreement or give them some kind of deadline. I don't know how it goes, but I feel like
You're referring to tax collection.
Yeah. some kind of game plan to at least get it like moving or, even get like partial payments or I don't know if there's anything that they're doing now, but I feel like it would give us a lot more room if we were looking for that funding when it comes to like rec director or infrastructure, obviously because it's the most important, but.
Good. Bill, do you have this number? Do you know how to get a hold of him?
Yep.
Good. We'll have him get that to you.
Who doesn't make a decision?
I'll hit.
Anyone else?
Laura Lieberger, 28 Prospect, Mr. Calvert, 28 Prospect Street. I just wanted to, first of all, thank you guys for working on the budget because it is below 1%, the increase. And that's, I do agree with Dave that we need to spend more on our town, but I know that people are struggling right now, myself included. And it's difficult. I appreciate the fact that you're considering putting in some sort of a rec director in there, even if it's part-time, just starting that program, I think would be really beneficial to the town. I think people are overlooking what the problem actually is, and it's not our town, it is our state. And the fact that with 169 towns, we have 169 school districts, and every one of them has a superintendent. And, we are doing everything in our own little bubble, and we have to fund it all on our property taxes. And that's a state problem. And people need to go to the state and talk to them about that. There are legislative sessions. I know Jeff Gordon and Kurt Vale have had many sessions where you can go talk to them about what's going on, but that's not something that's going to get solved here in Stafford. And I really think that people need to look at that and look beyond what's happening here and speak up to make those changes because, people are talking about, moving south because it's cheaper. It's because they have one giant district with multiple counties and one superintendent, or they share services where they have IT that covers the entire town or the entire town and 2 other towns. So, there are solutions that are going to take a lot of time. So we still have to fund our town in the meantime, but I would hope that you would start looking at some of those solutions. A lot of questions come up during public hearing. I hope that a lot of people show up to ask those questions and find out the answers so that they know what they're voting on when it comes time to vote on this budget. So thank you all for all your work.
Anyone else?
Can I ask one question?
Sure, Dave.
Bill, can you tell me who the animal control officer is?
Yes. Jen.
Jen Miller?
Jennifer Miller.
Jennifer Miller?
Yeah.
Okay. She's not here tonight, right?
She's not.
Is she? No, okay.
She's wrangling the dog somewhere.
I want to make donations.
Donations are always appreciated.
Right. Plenty of that.
So that's it for our questions. Everybody's all set? No other further questions? Public comment? The only update I have is that we really don't have any business for next Monday. Our regular meeting is the 4th Thursday of the month. So we're going to cancel Monday's meeting. And our next meeting will be our regular meeting. We'll go over our normal monthly budgets and so forth. I believe that is the the 26th. But we'll get ahead of that.
Can I raise a point of personal order?
Sure.
With the permission and support of the other members of the committee, I want to raise one point as a personal privilege. And my point is this. I'm very unhappy with, primarily it's my fault entirely. I can't use it. My eyes aren't good enough to read this small print. I'm very unhappy with and it has nothing to do with anybody who set it up or anything, but with this system to try to write down data, particular numbers and so forth that he was presenting from the PowerPoint. I want to pay for my own printouts of those PowerPoint presentations. You were talking about packets, you were talking about reference to materials. We don't have them. We got elected to try to do the best we can for the people in town. I understand if it's a cost problem, even if it's $100 a meeting, it's worth it to me to be able to see something instead of trying to catch up. And sometimes even when the projections don't correspond to what you're talking about. So I'm asking everybody on the committee, please, to ask the chair to somehow give us an option of having the printouts that we used to have so that the material is readily available. And if it has to be a matter of, cost, then I'll be willing to pay my share. I'll pay for them because I want to know what I'm doing.
We want to make sure you have the information. The emails go out with all the information, Dave.
I know.
I know you don't.
No, I do. I've been watching that.
So the information's there available for you ahead of time. But I'm sure that if you see Erin, she can take care of. Erin, you make sure to get Dave printed copies of that.
Good.
If anybody else needs them, obviously.
And can I ask Bill one final question? There was no mention tonight of the lawsuit for the geothermal. There's a lot of money potentially that could come to the town there. Do we have any report on when it's going to be resolved or when the case will move forward?
We have a court date of April 2028.
April, what was it?
2028.
2028, okay.
Every 3 months or 6 months we get an update.
Okay,
I'll entertain a motion.
move to adjourn.
Good. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?